my name is Aiden Kim, and I am a high schooler at Clayton High School. So our organization is focused on helping underserved children in our community. And after thinking about which group of kids would need the most help, I landed on the refugee kids in our neighborhood. And I thought of them because while a lot of the other underserved kids, they do get help from other organizations, like there are a lot of organizations here, but the refugee kids aren't really focused on too much. And I realized that they were actually the most vulnerable in our community, and that's why I decided to help them first. Hey, so after doing some research on how I can help them, I landed on you guys, the Welcome Neighbor. So thank you so much for helping me carry out this project idea that I had.
I am so excited to be part of this, and I was just saying to you a couple minutes ago that I appreciate the fact that you stuck with Welcome Neighbor, because I know you reached out to us a while ago, and then within a few months you contacted me again and said, I have all of your supplies. So, and we have lots of families who are going to benefit from this.
Okay, so I have a couple questions regarding like the refugees and the refugee kids here in St. Louis. So the first one, so while I was collecting the school supplies at my district, I got the feeling that, like a slight feeling that a lot of people in our community haven't fully accepted the refugees as their full neighbors yet. But whether we like it or not, like the refugees, they're here to stay, and we kind of have to like accept them as part of our community and part of our neighborhood. So to help educate some of the people out there, what do you think, like how many like refugees do you think are living in St. Louis right now? And like in your opinion, how are they doing? Are they?
Yeah, so they are working very hard. The families that we get to work with are they're excited and happy to be here because they feel safe. These families have either been refugees or refugees that have been living outside of their home country, generally from Syria, and they've been living in refugee camps or in other countries for several years, waiting for the opportunity to come to the United States. And then the largest population that we are working with right now are from Afghanistan. And we have families that came here right after the fall of Kabul, and so those families were very fortunate, the ones that could get here right away. And we still have families that are arriving from Afghanistan nearly 4 years after the fall of Kabul. And for those families, many times they have been hiding from the Taliban for years now. And they would have to leave houses every 3 to 5 days. They would have to be moving with their families. So that means dad was not working. It means that the children were not in school. No, older girls are able to go to school in Afghanistan right now. So it's still, and it is hard to get from Afghanistan to the United States. So for our families that are coming now, they have had to somehow get their paperwork together with the Taliban in power and then get to another country. So they go from Afghanistan to Pakistan, and from Pakistan are able to come to the United States. It's really hard. But they're determined to come somewhere safe, and they want to make St. Louis their home. They're excited for the opportunity that their children can go to school, and they're going to do everything they can to make it work. And we were talking a little bit earlier that we have a lot of families that come and they're highly educated. They were working maybe in government positions, definitely in white-collar jobs like being lawyers, doctors, veterinarians, dentists, and then they come here and they have to start over. And so they're doing it for their children. So Welcome Neighbor, we work with about 75 families right now in our family partnering program. So that is about 375 people. So that includes all of the children. And we have about 180 volunteers that are helping us support those families. We have other programs that work with families that have been here longer through our cooking program. We've got an ESL program. But in terms of who's coming to St. Louis, in this past year, the International Institute helped resettle over 2,000 people, which was a huge number. Right now, nobody is coming for 90 days. That's on a pause. So new families are not arriving unless they're secondary resettlement. And those are the families that are moving from another city in the United States to come to St. Louis. And those families are still coming. So we're still learning about those secondary resettlement families. St. Louis has really advertised itself as a welcoming place for immigrants and refugees because our population is not really growing, particularly in the city. And when you mentioned our communities not even kind of knowing about the refugees and immigrants here. It's our refugee and immigrant communities are generally resettled in the city of St. Louis or in South County because it's a little more affordable. So, I mean, I live in Brentwood, you live in Clayton. Our neighbors are not the new refugees and immigrants that are moving here, but hopefully eventually they will be. And so I think it's just educating our community about the diversity of our population here in St. Louis and how it's really a wonderful thing that we have.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what percent of the refugees do you think have bring kids with them, and what's like the average age of a lot of the kids that come here?
Mm-hmm. Almost everybody has a family that we are working with. We have a few single people, men and women, that we work with, but generally they're all families, and they do range in size from families of 4 to families of 12. And so then if you have a really large family, you can imagine that age range is much larger. So I would say if I had to guess, the average age are like elementary school kids. But we do have some families that move here and they have kids that are in their early 20s. And so they are able to live at their home with their parents and help provide by working. But we do have families that come that are from newborn, all the way up to 18. It just depends on how many there are. And then we also have had lots of families that have had babies once they've gotten to the United States. So the families can continue to grow. I think one thing that we realize, that the families realize, is they're moving from generally the ones that we work with, Afghanistan and Syria. It's pretty expensive to have 10 children in the United States. So we encourage them to kind of take that into consideration. But yeah, we will help all of those families, but some of them have many children. Mm-hmm.
So I know these refugee families are moving a very long distance to get here. And because of that, I thought they must have had some gaps in their education, like you were talking about before. But also like me, they're also next generation and not just here for temporary.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, if without a consistent education in their childhood, it would be really hard for them to integrate into society as good adults when they're all grown up. So I wanted to know where and how are they currently getting their education right now?
Yeah. So yes, there is often disruption in education. So for instance, some of our Syrian families, some of them are able to continue their education. The families from Syria that we are working with have been coming from Jordan. And so some of them do go to school or live in an apartment or have jobs while they're in Jordan. And so their education is pretty continuous. We have other families who have been living in refugee camps, and in those camps, sometimes it's thousands and thousands of people, and they do try to provide some education, but it is a very challenging setting and structure to provide education to all of those children. So it is interrupted. So we have families who come where a child will be 15 years old, but they haven't been in school since they were 9, but they want to go to school. And what is really awesome about education in the United States is that everybody has the right to a public education, and your public schools will educate everybody that lives within their boundaries. And we have wonderful schools in St. Louis and in St. Louis County that have great programs for what we're calling, a lot of times you would call them ESL students, English as a second language, or ML, the new acronym that I really like are multi-language learners. So people that come from a different country and they have their home language, and then they're also going to be learning English on top of that. And we have really great teachers and support systems to put in place to help students learn English as quickly as possible. In St. Louis City, there is one school called Nahad Chapman School for New Americans, and it's part of St. Louis Public Schools, and that's where all of our students who do not speak English fluently enough to go to their neighborhood school, they go to this school and learn. They can be there for up to 2 years, and they try and teach them enough English so that they can integrate into their neighborhood school. And the same thing happens for high school. What is amazing about little kids and their brains is they can pick up language pretty fast. So within a few months, I would say, 3 to 6 months at public school where you're hearing English, we'll go back and visit a family, and the kids are our interpreters with their parents. And we don't want them to have to do that, but oh, it's really helpful. And they are learning English very quickly. So I just have to credit our teachers and the work that they are putting in to help our students learn English and then get kind of caught up. And you are right. Like, let's say you're in 9th grade. If you haven't been able to go to school for the past 2 years, you're going to be behind. But the schools recognize that and recognize what you've gone through to get there, and will set up structures for success. And students can go to school in public schools until the age of 21. So if you've missed some school, and they'll say, well, you tested into the 6th grade, which you don't want to, but because you're going to be taller than everyone else, but they will have you go to high school for a longer period of time and try and get you to a point where you're set up for success. One of our students is from Afghanistan, and she came when she was about your age, and she is now a student at SLU University, and we are so proud of her. So she worked really, really hard and learned English. She didn't know English when she got here, and now she's in college, and that doesn't happen all the time right away, but it can.
So would you say like most of the kids that you work with are currently in school right now here in St. Louis?
Yeah, so that's one of the parts of resettlement. We have to, as a community, when you're participating in resettlement, students need to be enrolled in school within 30 days of arriving in the United States. And it's a much different school structure than their home countries a lot of the time. So they get enrolled in school, they are tested to see what class they should be in, what grade. And our biggest challenge right now is just making sure our students can get to school, because the bus system in St. Louis City can be, there's challenges to that. And so just trying to get our kids to school is the biggest challenge, because our families don't have cars right away. If the bus doesn't show up, then the students aren't able to go. But we know it's one of the number one things to create a successful transition for resettlement and a successful future for our kids, is to get them in school as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. So I know that a lot of the refugees that come to the US are like kind of really struggling to like survive here. And I know you guys like help them a lot with these issues through your efforts that you guys do, but aligning a bit more to the goals of my organization, I kind of want to like focus on getting setting the kids up for their future really nicely. So what kind of like education help do you think they need the most like right now?
So we talked a little bit, we've got our tutoring program with high school students that are able to go into the homes. We partner them with one student. It's only for an hour. I mean, in a perfect world, we would have a lot more tutoring for literacy and for academic tutoring. And so we have to find that balance between what can the kids handle, because after school they're also very tired. So how much they can handle, how much the parents can handle, either having to get them to a place or another, and then how much our volunteers are able to commit. So it is that, I believe, that one-on-one relationship that's created between the student and a high school student from St. Louis, or an adult who is going to help them with their academic tutoring. First, creating a relationship, and it helps bring the student to the tutoring event and also the tutor, because they have a connection to each other. And if we could increase that time as the kids get older, I think that would be the most important part. You really, I would think, as a student or a new arrival in St. Louis, it's just like in your school, you want somebody to see you and to appreciate you and to make it their job for you to succeed. And so those kinds of relationships are what I see are going to make these new St. Louis neighbors successful.
This is the last question I have like written down. So this time around, I kind of just focused on the kids' education and with the school supplies and all. But what other help would you say the refugee kids need the most, and where do you think like we could focus our attention to them if we decide to do this again next time?
Yeah, no, I think let's definitely do something else again next time. I am going to go back to those relationships, and for our new students that are coming, to just know that people care about them, and to have a connection with a student in St. Louis, an American person that they could even just send a message to check in. So my daughter was a literacy tutor for all of last year, and so she still goes, she's going to college here in St. Louis, and she still goes to see the family at least once or twice a month. And the student that she helped to tutor, they text message each other, and so Marzia knows that there is somebody here in St. Louis that is her friend, an American student, somebody who's in college that she looks up to and has a connection to, and I think that that's so important. Even when you are born in the United States and you've lived here forever, when you walk into a new school or a new grade or a new classroom, you just want to feel comfortable. And I think having a friend is a really important part. An American friend that can kind of tell you how to do things here is great. And just feeling part of the community and loved is going to be really important. So we do activities with our families, and sometimes we do activities just with the kids. So next Monday we got free tickets to go skating at Steinberg Rink. And so we're having our families come with our kids just to go ice skating, because many of them haven't done that before. So those kinds of events, and I think partnering with high school students, we've got our START program, which is a high school run program, but we can be much more inclusive with your group as well. But those are the things that are really memorable, and they're also memorable for you because you get to experience them.
Yeah, so like I said, that's kind of the last question I have. So thank you so much for your time, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe this interview will really help the people in our neighborhood understand the refugees and kind of how are they living here. And do you have any final thoughts to say about your organization's mission or efforts, kind of?
Yeah, we do a lot of great things here at Welcome Neighbor. But what I also think is really fun is just make these connections with people in our community that want to support the families that we're working with. Because it's hard work. There are a lot of needs out there, but when I know that we're part of a community that's going to support our new neighbors here in St. Louis, it makes my heart very full and happy. So I'm just so grateful for you and for Mom for helping to do this, because it will make a really big impact. And I think right now the most important thing that we can all do is work locally to try and create the best experience for our neighbors.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Aiden.
So I really appreciate everyone at Glenridge and Wydown and the high school who helped donate school supplies so I could pull this off. I really couldn't have done it with the help of everyone that donated school supplies. So thank you.